In the twilight realm between the visible and invisible, where mortal comprehension fades into the shadows of divine mystery, there exists a figure whose very name is a question posed to the cosmos. Michael, who is like God, a name that echoes through three of the world's great faiths, whispered in synagogues, proclaimed in churches, invoked in mosques. Yet for all his prominence in religious devotion, for all the statues carved in his image and the prayers lifted in his name, Michael the Archangel remains one of Scripture's most elusive figures. His appearances in the Bible are startlingly brief. 5, perhaps 6 mentions across the entirety of sacred text, no lengthy discourses, no detailed biography, just fragments, glimpses, moments of such intensity that they burn themselves into the biblical narrative despite their brevity. 3 times he appears in the Book of Daniel, where he is merely mentioned by another celestial being. Once in the Epistle of Jude, in a dispute so strange it has puzzled scholars for millennia. And once in the Book of Revelation, leading the armies of heaven against the dragon himself. From these scattered references, an entire theology has grown. Michael has become the patron of warriors, the protector of the faithful, the great prince who stands guard over God's chosen. Yet the question remains, who is Michael truly? What power does this celestial prince wield? And why does his story, so fragmentary and incomplete, continue to captivate the human imagination? Before we can understand Michael's role in the cosmic drama, we must first understand his name. In Hebrew, Michael is rendered as Hebrew Mem, Hebrew Hebrew Yod, Hebrew Kaf, Hebrew Hebrew Aleph, Hebrew Hebrew Lamed, transliterated as Mika'il. The name is not a statement but a rhetorical question. Who is like God, or perhaps more literally, who is as God? This is not merely a label. It is a theological declaration wrapped in interrogative form. The question inherent in Michael's name serves as a perpetual reminder of God's incomparability. No being, no matter how powerful or exalted, can rival the Creator. The Archangel's very identity is bound up in this fundamental truth. Every time Michael appears, every time his name is spoken, it poses this challenge to the forces of darkness, who among all creation can stand equal to the Almighty. In Jewish tradition, this name takes on additional significance. It becomes a battle cry against idolatry, against the hubris of those who would set themselves above God. The name also distinguishes Michael from other angelic beings. Gabriel, whose name means God is my strength, serves as the messenger who brings understanding and revelation. But Michael's question encompasses something broader, something more fundamental to the nature of reality itself. In Islamic tradition, Michael's name appears as Mika'il, carrying the same essential meaning. The question resonates across religious boundaries because it addresses the universal human tendency toward pride, toward the temptation to equate oneself with the divine. Michael's name is a perpetual correction to that impulse. What makes Michael's prominence so remarkable is how little the Bible actually tells us about him. In the entire Old Testament, Michael is mentioned only in the Book of Daniel. Not once does he speak directly, not once is his appearance described in detail. We never see him act independently. He appears only in the reports of others, a figure operating just beyond the veil of human perception. The Book of Daniel presents Michael in 3 brief passages. In Daniel 10:13, an unnamed celestial being mentions that Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me. In Daniel 10:21, the same being refers to Michael, your prince. And in Daniel 12:1, we're told that Michael, the great prince who protects your people, will arise. That is the entirety of Michael's Old Testament presence. 3 verses, 3 fragmentary references. The New Testament is equally restrained. Jude 9 gives us a single enigmatic sentence about Michael disputing with the devil over Moses' body. Revelation 12:7-9 describes a war in heaven where Michael and his angels fight against the dragon. If we are generous in our count, Michael appears perhaps 6 times in Scripture. Compare this to other biblical figures who capture less devotion. Abraham appears hundreds of times. Moses dominates multiple books. Even lesser figures receive more narrative attention than the commander of heaven's armies. This scarcity creates a paradox. How did such a minimally described figure become so central to religious devotion? Part of the answer lies in what these brief mentions reveal. They are not casual references, but rather glimpses into cosmic conflicts of ultimate significance. When Michael appears, even in passing, it is always at moments of crucial importance, at turning points in the war between light and darkness. The Bible's restraint also serves a theological purpose. By giving us only fragments, Scripture prevents us from turning angels into objects of worship. Michael remains servant, not sovereign. His power is delegated, not inherent. The focus stays where it belongs, on the God who commands him. Our first substantial encounter with Michael comes in Daniel 10, though even here his role is indirect. The chapter opens with Daniel in deep mourning, fasting for 3 weeks, seeking understanding about a troubling vision. On the 24th day of the first month, standing beside the Tigris River, Daniel's prayers are answered in a way that nearly destroys him. A being appears, the description is overwhelming, clothed in linen with a belt of fine gold around his waist. His body gleams like topaz, his face flashes like lightning, his eyes burn like flaming torches. His arms and legs shine with the gleam of burnished bronze, and his voice sounds like the roar of a multitude. The men with Daniel flee in terror. Daniel himself is left strengthless, his face drained of color, utterly overcome. Who is this figure? The text never explicitly identifies him. What we do know is what this being tells Daniel. He explains that he was dispatched the very first day Daniel began to pray, but his journey was delayed. The prince of the Persian kingdom resisted me 21 days, he says. Then comes the crucial detail. Then Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me because I was detained there with the king of Persia. These words pull back a curtain on a reality most humans never perceive. While Daniel prayed, while empires rose and fell, a parallel conflict raged in the spiritual realm. This unnamed messenger, powerful enough to terrify Daniel with his mere presence, was nevertheless hindered by another spiritual entity for 3 full weeks. The being describes this opponent as the prince of the Persian kingdom. This is no human ruler. No mortal king could detain an angel of such obvious power. The prince of Persia must be understood as a spiritual entity, a demonic force aligned with Satan's kingdom, assigned to exert influence over the Persian Empire. This concept reveals something profound about the nature of spiritual warfare. Nations are not merely political entities. Behind earthly kingdoms stand spiritual powers, territorial authorities in the realm of darkness. The prince of Persia held back God's messenger for 21 days. The situation required intervention from a higher authority. Michael arrived and apparently engaged the prince of Persia, allowing the messenger to break free and reach Daniel. The messenger then adds a haunting detail. No one supports me against them except Michael, your prince. In the cosmic conflict over the fate of nations, only Michael stands with this messenger. The implication is staggering. Michael's rank and authority are so exceptional that he alone is qualified for this level of conflict. The designation your prince in Daniel 10:21 introduces us to Michael's primary role. He is the guardian of Israel. In Daniel 12:1, this role is made even more explicit. At that time, Michael, the great prince who protects your people, will arise. There will be a time of distress such as has not happened from the beginning of nations until then. But at that time your people, everyone whose name is found written in the book, will be delivered. This prophecy places Michael at the center of eschatological events. When the final tribulation comes, Michael will arise. The Hebrew verb used here carries connotations of standing up to take action, of stepping forward to intervene. Michael is not merely observing from heaven. He is actively engaging in the defense of those under his protection. The concept of national guardian angels has deep roots in Jewish tradition. God has assigned angelic princes to watch over nations, with Michael specifically responsible for Israel. This understanding transforms how we read Israel's history. The exodus from Egypt was not merely a clash between Pharaoh and Moses, but a cosmic confrontation between Michael and whatever demonic power held sway over Egypt. Every threat to Israel's existence plays out on both earthly and heavenly planes. The relationship between Michael and Israel is not merely protective but deeply personal. He is called your prince, not their prince. This possessive phrasing suggests covenant relationship, a bond that transcends simple duty. Michael's defense of Israel flows from his commission as the executor of God's special purposes for the Jewish people. If Daniel gives us glimpses of Michael as guardian and warrior in regional spiritual conflicts, the Book of Revelation explodes those glimpses into cosmic spectacle. Here we witness Michael in what may be his defining moment, the war in heaven that results in Satan's final expulsion from the presence of God. Revelation 12 presents a complex tapestry of symbolism. A woman clothed with the sun, pregnant and crying out in birth pains. An enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 crowns, his tail sweeping a third of the stars from the sky. The woman gives birth to a son who will rule all nations with an iron scepter, and the child is immediately caught up to God's throne. Then comes the war. There was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back, but he was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was hurled to the earth, and his angels with him. This passage has generated extensive theological discussion. When did this war occur? Some interpreters place it at Satan's original rebellion before human history began. Others see it as coinciding with Christ's death and resurrection. Still others view it as a future event, part of the end-time tribulation. What cannot be disputed is Michael's centrality. He leads the angelic armies. The text does not say the angels fought, but specifically Michael and his angels. The possessive phrasing indicates command, leadership, authority. The dragon and his angels fight back, but they are defeated. Revelation emphasizes this. They were not strong enough. Despite Satan's power and cunning and age-old experience in rebellion, he and his forces cannot overcome Michael's armies. What does this war tell us about Michael? First, it reveals him as a being of extraordinary power. If tradition is correct in identifying Lucifer with Satan, then Michael engaged and defeated one who was God's masterpiece of angelic creation before his fall. Second, it shows Michael's unswerving loyalty. While a third of the angels chose to follow Satan in rebellion, Michael never wavered. He remained steadfast, committed to God's sovereignty, willing to fight even former companions who had joined the insurrection. Third, it demonstrates tactical brilliance. Michael does not merely fight, he leads. He commands angelic armies. The war in heaven is not a chaotic brawl, but an organized campaign that results in decisive victory. If the war in heaven shows Michael at his most dramatic, the dispute over Moses' body presents him at his most enigmatic. The entire incident is contained in a single verse, Jude 9, but even the Archangel Michael, when he was disputing with the devil about the body of Moses, did not himself dare to condemn him for slander, but said, "The Lord rebuke you." This reference raises more questions than it answers. What dispute? What body? Why would Satan and Michael argue about Moses' corpse? The Old Testament account of Moses' death mentions nothing of this confrontation. It simply states that Moses died in Moab and the Lord buried him there, but to this day no one knows where his grave is. Early church fathers indicate that Jude was referencing an ancient Jewish text called the Assumption of Moses. This apocryphal work apparently contained an account of this dispute, though the relevant portions have been lost to history. Based on fragmentary quotations and early commentaries, scholars have proposed several theories. One suggestion is that Satan claimed ownership of Moses' body on the grounds that Moses was a sinner. Another theory focuses on idolatry, that Satan wanted Moses' burial site known so future generations would be tempted to worship at his tomb. God prevented this by burying Moses in a hidden location, and Michael was dispatched to ensure the body remained concealed. What makes Jude's reference particularly important is Michael's response. He did not himself dare to condemn him for slander, but said, "The Lord rebuke you." This is the only recorded speech of Michael in the entire Bible. 4 words, "The Lord rebuke you." These words reveal Michael's character more powerfully than any lengthy discourse could. Here is the commander of heaven's armies, the being who casts Satan from God's presence, the great prince who has defeated demonic powers in countless conflicts. Yet when faced with the devil's accusations, Michael does not presume to judge Satan on his own authority. The restraint is remarkable. Michael could certainly have condemned Satan. He would have been justified in pronouncing judgment on the father of lies, but instead he defers to God. He recognizes boundaries to his authority. He understands that ultimate judgment belongs to the Lord alone. Jude uses this incident to contrast Michael's humility with the arrogance of false teachers. If Michael, in all his power and righteousness, exercises such restraint, how much more should humans be cautious in speaking about spiritual realities they barely comprehend? While the canonical Bible mentions only Michael and Gabriel by name among the archangels, ancient Jewish texts expanded the angelic hierarchy significantly. The Book of Enoch, an apocryphal text that was widely read in Second Temple Judaism and is explicitly quoted in the Epistle of Jude, presents 7 archangels who stand in the presence of God. First Enoch names them Uriel, Raphael, Raguel, Michael, Sarachael, Gabriel, and Ramiel. Each is assigned specific responsibilities. This tradition of 7 archangels appears to have developed during the Babylonian exile, influenced by Persian concepts of angelic hierarchies. In First Enoch, Michael's role is particularly significant. He is described as merciful and long-suffering. He is tasked with binding the Watchers, the angels who descended to earth and took human wives. Michael appears not merely as a warrior, but as a guide into divine mysteries, a revealer of cosmic secrets. Michael's significance also extends into Islamic tradition, where he appears as Mika'il, one of the 4 great archangels. His single mention in the Quran comes in Surah Al-Baqarah. Whoever is an enemy to Allah and his angels and his messengers and Gabriel and Michael, then indeed Allah is an enemy to the disbelievers. While the Quran mentions Michael only once, Islamic theological tradition elaborates significantly. Michael is understood as the angel of providence, responsible for distributing sustenance and controlling natural forces like rain and vegetation. Where Gabriel nourishes the soul with revelation, Michael nourishes the body with provision. According to Islamic tradition, Michael has not laughed since the creation of hell. This image of perpetual solemnity captures something profound about his character. As an angel of mercy, he is deeply grieved by the existence of eternal punishment. We return to where we began, the question contained in Michael's name. Who is like God? The answer Scripture provides through every glimpse of the archangel is the same. No one, not Satan in his rebellion, not earthly powers in their arrogance, not any territorial demon that ever opposed God's purposes, not even Michael himself for all his power and faithfulness. Michael's existence points beyond himself to the God he serves. His strength is delegated, his authority is derivative, his victories are not his own but the victories of the one who commands him. The archangel who casts down Satan does so not by inherent power but as instrument of divine will. This is what makes Michael's restraint in Jude 9 so profound. The Lord rebuke you, 4 words that summarize an entire theology of power and authority. Even in the presence of ultimate evil, even when confronting the father of lies, Michael does not presume. He defers. He recognizes that judgment belongs to God alone. Perhaps this is Michael's greatest lesson for humanity. Power rightly understood is always power in service to something greater than itself. Authority exercised rightly is authority that knows its limits and its source. The warrior angel who defeats Satan's forces, who intervenes in cosmic battles beyond human comprehension, does not act from pride or ambition or desire for glory. He acts from obedience, from loyalty, from recognition that the God he serves deserves absolute devotion. In an age skeptical of authority, cynical about power, suspicious of hierarchies, Michael presents a different possibility. Authority that exists not for self-aggrandizement but for service. Power that defends rather than oppresses. Hierarchy that reflects not domination but proper ordering according to wisdom and purpose. The mystery of Michael endures. 6 brief mentions in Scripture have generated millennia of devotion, centuries of theological reflection, countless prayers for protection and guidance. Mystery invites contemplation. Ambiguity demands faith. The gaps in our knowledge remind us that we see through a glass darkly, that ultimate reality extends far beyond what our minds can fully comprehend. So we are left with fragments: a prince who guards Israel, a warrior who casts down Satan, a voice that may herald Christ's return, an advocate who disputes with evil over the very bodies of God's servants. Through these glimpses, we perceive something of heaven's order, something of the unseen warfare that shapes visible reality. Michael the Archangel, whose very name questions the cosmos, stands as eternal reminder that above all earthly powers, beyond all spiritual forces, there exists one who has no equal, and that in serving that one, even angels find their purpose and their glory. As you reflect on the mystery of Michael, as you consider what these ancient texts and traditions might mean for your understanding of the spiritual realm, remember that some questions are meant not to be fully answered, but to be lived with. The question, who is like God, is not seeking information but transformation. It asks not what you know but where you stand. Consider what forces you allow to influence your life. Consider what powers claim your allegiance. Consider whether the answer to Michael's eternal question shapes how you approach each day. And if this exploration has stirred something in you, if you find yourself drawn deeper into these mysteries, leave your thoughts below. What does Michael's story mean to you? Like this video if it has given you something to think about. Subscribe to this channel if you want to continue exploring the hidden corners of Scripture, the mysteries that challenge our assumptions and expand our understanding. The ancient texts still speak. The questions they pose still demand answers. Who is like God? The Archangel asks through the centuries. No one comes the answer from heaven and earth, no one but the One.